All right. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is David Patrick Carey with Church of the Eternal Logos, and I am joined by the always amazing Father Deacon Dr. Ananias. How are you, sir?
Thank you, brother. Good to see you. Long time
Good
no
to
see.
see you. Before we get into it, I need to make a public announcement. You were right. You hopped in on my stream when I was addressing the articles, the hit pieces on me, and I wrote down the date of our live stream wrong. And you said, hey, yeah, I'll see you this Thursday. And I go, really, this Thursday? I think it's in the next Thursday. I wrote it down wrong. So for the entire world to know and see, you were right. You were right. How's your day going, man? This was you said this was the first day back to class?
Yeah, but I was going to say, God forgives and I forgive.
Yeah. I'll remember this on Forgiveness Sunday. I'll shoot you a text.
Yeah, today was the first day back to class. I always have mixed feelings because like I'm in summer mode. In fact, I was fishing the last 2 days on the Blackfoot River.
Ooh, do you fly fish or?
Yeah, fly fish.
Fly fish. Ooh, okay.
With some parishioners, and I'm telling you, it's so beautiful. I'll send you some pictures. Kid you not, hailstorm comes in, and I had to run back under the bridge and hide out. And it was like thundering and lightning. And then it cleared up within like 10 minutes in double rainbow, bro.
Whoa. A double promise for God.
Yeah.
Double promise.
And I was just like, oh, man, I don't want to go back and teach.
Is it hot in Montana? We're having a heat wave over here in the Midwest. It was
it's really nice.
97 here in Indiana.
I heard that. Like somebody, former parishioner, I don't know if you ever met Dr. John Zanopoulos.
I have not.
He's moved back to, I think he's moved to North Carolina, but he was driving through, I forget what state he said, and it was like, going back east was like 111 or something like that.
Geez. Dr. Crispy said, I thought you were a fisher of men.
It's not an either or, Dr. Crispy. It's a both and. We got to make T-shirts that say that. It's not an either or. It's a both and.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. Anyways, so I came to class today, kind of bummed. I'm like, but then you're so charged up that it's so wonderful to meet the students. And I kind of spend the first day doing the icebreakers. I'm like, here's who I am. Tell me a little bit about yourself. I just really enjoy that, the personal aspect of getting to know them and why you're taking philosophy. And so, and then trying out my new comedy too.
Oh, did it land?
Oh yeah, it's really good. I've had it land flat before, and I'm like, I wonder what's going on with. But they seem to like all my jokes, so this is a good crowd. They're got a good crowd here tonight. I see you in the background. Stop me if you've heard this one.
Well, tonight, as we mentioned earlier, but tonight we're going to be doing a little bit of a deconstructing and a debunking of a movement that has gained a little bit of steam over in the John Vervaeke camp, and this is called Christian Transhumanism. And we're going to be reading in essentially a blog post which lays out their entire paradigm, which they think is incredibly coherent and articulate and sophisticated. And I look forward to what we have to say by the time we get through the entire blog post.
I want to wear these glasses, but it looks like it's like the what are they? Those Google glasses where it's like
it does look like that because I can't see your eyes; I can only see the screen.
Yeah, it's really great, isn't it? I thought for the Christian transhumanism, I just put my Christian transhumanism glasses on.
There you go. You got anything to promote before we get into it?
Let's
to shill whatever you got to shill right now.
Well, I promoted Father Andrew's article is really great.
Yep. And your catechism classes?
My catechism classes, if I can get, by the way, I was supposed to do one tomorrow. I was telling you, Patrick. I record it in, obviously at my college because I have great kind of recording equipment in classrooms. And then I upload that. I haven't found out a way to do, I would do live, but we don't have any stream. Like you can't on the school computers. You can't download apps. It's like pre-established. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
Because otherwise, everybody would be messing up the computer system with different stuff. So, unless maybe some of you guys can help me, I don't know how to stream live from the school computer. Could if I could figure out.
Dude, StreamYard. I'm telling you. It's a website, not an app.
Oh yeah, well, why don't I do that? Well, we're
just go through StreamYard. You can do that through a web browser. As long as it's like a Chrome-based web browser, they work best.
Yeah, we got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
So, yeah, you can definitely stream that live. And you'll be able to bring up YouTube comments on the screen. That's
And
one of the things that I like the
in
best
this
about
rare,
StreamYard.
rare occasion, Patrick, you were right and I was wrong.
Oh, shots fired.
We need the rap by
Yeah.
Anyway, so I got this idea with the parishioners. Tomorrow, instead of doing the classroom, we're going to return to the river, and we're going to have the parishioners. We're all going to camp, have fellowship, and fish and hike. And I was like, that's a great thing. So if I can get somebody to record that on their phone or something, maybe I could upload it. But it's not like it's crazy. There's no phone reception. You can't call anybody. You're literally off the grid when you're out there. So I'll be doing that. And then let's see, what else do I want to plug? I'm going to be putting up my courses.
That's what I was going to say. You need to do that, man. You got so many philosophy courses. You got to put that up on a website behind a paywall.
Yeah, and there's something really cool that I'm going to announce pretty soon regarding that, but it's going to blow all of your minds. It's going to be the best thing Patristic Faith's ever done.
Whoa, that's big talk.
Yeah, I've talked to everybody. You know you're doing stuff right. Like everybody that you talk to in big names are like, that's the most awesome idea I've ever heard.
Well, very cool.
So I'm very excited. We'll announce that soon.
What classes are you teaching this semester?
This semester is just all intro. And then I forget what they gave me for next semester. I'll have to look up. But they typically do that like the first semester. You know, they mix everything up because you have 4 years, right? Students going through, they want to offer different courses. But I think I have ethics next semester, which I haven't taught for about a year. So I'm excited about that.
Right. Well, great. Before we get into it, I got to make my few chilling announcements. Is number one, if you got any Orthodox items you need to purchase, be it prayer ropes, icons, scented incense, whatever it may be, necklaces, go check out orthodoxdepot.com. It's a good Orthodox company right here in the Midwest over in Ohio. And if you use promo code COTEL, you'll get 10% off all products. So it's a way to help me out. Also, you can get some ortho goodies. And if anybody would like to support, I want to say, actually, I have my speech from Montana 2023 is up on my website. Thank you to Father Deacon. And shout out to what's the St. George? What's the
Holy Order of St. George?
The Holy Order of St. George. They put together the video. And if you would like to see my speech, you can do so by becoming a website member. This is the link right here. And if anybody would like to sign up for a one-on-one session, you can do so with this link right here. And if anybody would like to sponsor a stream, which we'll be diving into a sponsored stream this Sunday, the occult, basically we'll be doing a deconstruction of Scientology, specifically looking at occult theology within Scientology. So it's going to be a sort of an occult breakdown of the I guess pseudo religion of Scientology. So that's going to be this Sunday. If you also have a stream you'd like to sponsor, a topic, I'd be happy to dive into it. You can do so with that link right there. And so that is all my announcements. With that being said,
we're going to announce maybe continuing our philosophy through modern political philosophy or something like that.
Yes. Yeah, we've been doing the good, the bad, and the ugly. And that was a lot of fun. And I've got a lot of good feedback from those streams because they were so, I think all of them were like 3 hours long. Like we did one on metaphysics. We went from Plato, or really even the pre-Socratics, all the way to the 20th century. We've done humanism. That's a fun series. We need to continue that. Well, we mentioned, you mentioned doing something last time when you hopped on the stream later in September. I forget exactly what it was, but
I thought it was the political. philosophy? Because we haven't done that, have we?
No, we haven't. But looking at Marxism and stuff like that might be.
I had that book that I taught from
Machiavelli and Marx. Yeah, that'd be a lot of fun. Shout out to Pure Blood Anglo-Christian, throws in $50. He says, "Bless Father?" ? I am not Orthodox. My nearest parish is a COOF-compliant OCA church and is a 4-hour drive away. Woo, man, where do you live?
Alaska.
I am not even a catechumen and am yearning for baptism into the church. I live in rural, Alaska. Okay, that makes sense. My name is Michael. Please pray for me. Well, we will pray for you, Michael. Absolutely. I'll say a prayer for you tonight. Absolutely. Thank you so much for the super chat. And man, a 4-hour drive and you got a compliant, there's some good Orthodox people in Alaska. So that's unfortunate. You must be.
You make do with what you got. You know what I mean?
Yep.
God's in control and you do your best. I have people writing me all the time that are, maybe in the military stationed abroad and stuff like that. And in the same situation, they're interested in becoming Orthodox, but there's no churches. They don't know what to do, or people who actually live somewhere where there's no churches. And, you can do prayer services, reader services and stuff, and you make best with what you can. Maybe you have to change, it's a bit different if you're not baptized, or if you're baptized Orthodox, you may have to change your liturgical schedule, where you have to drive 4 hours. You have to fly maybe occasionally to go to a liturgy or something like that, or eventually, start making plans to move. I know that when I moved up here to Montana, there were two priorities. I had to find a church.
Yeah.
And a town that had an Orthodox church in it. And two, a job. So I could eat, so I could survive, so I could actually drive to church.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are the first things. It's what my whole talk was about, right? Those are the first things first, right?
Exactly.
Everything, which is amazing verse, seek first the kingdom of God and all these things shall be added to you. I'm like, that's all I have to get is those two things down, and then God will take care of everything else. So,
once you can get there in your heart, it definitely takes a load off because it's a lot less to worry about. Just let providence take place. DC Woodworking threw in a few bucks and said, "Keep up the great work, DPH and Father Deacon." Well, thank you so much, DC.
We're a good team, dude. We should go on a tour, man.
We should.
If you guys could fund us, DPH and I would visit your parish and be.
We'll be in a parish near you.
Yeah, see you there. Tuesday. Today's Thursday. Thursday.
So,
that's not a bad idea. We could.
It's not a bad idea. I would love to do that in the future if it was feasible. Obviously, if it wasn't an expense to ourselves, but it was able to be supported. I'd love to do a tour, go to some of the major hot points with ortho communities here in the U.S. That'd be a lot of fun. But anyways, regarding today's topic, we are going to be doing a full deconstruction of a Christian transhumanist confession. And this is it right here.
Deconstruction?
Deconstruct. I see what you did there. So we're going to be reading this article here, and I'm going to share the link for everybody if you want to see it. This is a website called Christian Transhumanism, and they have this running blog, which they don't post on, too often, about once every few months, it looks like. But they post these blog posts basically trying to defend their position. And if we scroll up here, and I in my video where I did a sponsored stream sort of uncovering and laying out the worldview of this Christian transhumanism, they use the cosmic theology of Maximus the Confessor to basically appropriate theosis in orthodoxy. So you'll hear whenever you come across these Christian transhumanists, they always want to use theosis, orthodoxy. Orthodoxy talks about this. But of course, none of them are orthodox because no orthodox person would support transhumanism. But they love to appropriate aspects of orthodoxy. And so the cosmic theology, the logos logi, and theosis is something that we're going to see probably emerge here. But instead of, I focused a lot on the sort of intellectual history of this movement in my stream. And when I talked to you before I did that stream, you're like, man, we should definitely just go through, because you're reading some of this stuff. And I was like, yeah, we definitely should. So I think we've been waiting for a few months to do this one before you went to LA. I think you did some traveling over to LA. So anything you want to say before I just start moving through here? Because this whole article, I mean, it's a bit lengthy, but it lays out, again, we're going to be talking about, because they're laying out their tenets to Christian transhumanism, the epistemological and ethical frameworks, their understanding of God, creation, humanity, science, faith, technology, evolution. Of course, they believe in evolution. Now, and again, they're already dated here. 13.8 billion, bro. It's like 26.8 billion now? They've doubled it. And ecology, space travel, of course, because that was always in the gospel.
Aliens.
Yeah, extraterrestrial life.
Oh, this is gonna be so fun.
Artificial intelligence, simulation hypothesis, multiverse, the future, and that's going to be the end of the article. So we got a lot to read through and uncover here. Anything you want to say before just starting to read some of these articles?
I was talking to my class about this too, because they were like, "What's your favorite thing to do in philosophy?" And I'm like, "Deconstruct worldviews and tear them down."
Yeah, exactly.
I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm a nerd, and like, but I said that, I was asking if they knew what a worldview is. And I told them that, look, every worldview has some truth to it. When we speak about a worldview is a coherent system. And I started using the analogy and metaphors of an operating system. So when you think about an operating system, you don't think about all the parts. You think about it as a whole, and can it actually perform well the various goals. And if we think about philosophical and religious systems like that, and treat it as a holistic, then we're not going to get hung up on the fact that, well, they say some true stuff here. It doesn't matter if everything says true stuff. And nobody would be deceived in following stuff, worldview or philosophy or religion, if it was all just patently false. So what we're doing here is we're deconstructing and exposing the con. Okay, that it's presenting itself as if it's a coherent system that will provide all these wonderful things. Right. And the only way it's going to convince you is if there's actually true things in there, which is exactly what the enemy and the devil does anyways, to deceive. And so what we're doing is then to expose that and then show, well, this is incompatible and contradictory to these other positions. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. So if you notice, beginning right here on Christianity, that doesn't look bad, does it?
Right. And the appeal here is that it allows you to basically adopt everything that is hot and current in regards to science and contemporary worldviews and all this different stuff. I want to tell everybody who's a YouTube channel member, can we get some ortho chads in the chat here for Father Deacon? One of our unique emojis we have in the chat is we got some Klaus Schwab, but can we get some ortho chad emojis for Dr.
Is there really
Father Deacon Dr. Ananias? Anyways, they'll post them here in a sec. You'll see them start to fill the chat.
Sweet.
There's Crispy. There we go. All right. So let's read some of these tenets here. Okay. First one, Article 1, core tenets of Christian transhumanism. This is their understanding of Christianity. Jesus is the Son of God. Agreed. God exists in three separate but co-equal persons, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. God created the world and humanity to participate in his ongoing creation.
Go
ahead.
Let's stop. So it sounds good, but I just spotted one problem. what does co-equal persons mean? Co-equal in essence or co-equal as persons? Because
Yeah, that's a
clearly
good.
we know that the Father is greater than
Right.
the Son because he's the monarchia. So you've already spotted a kind of sloppy, ambiguous.
Right.
Anyways, go ahead.
After humanity chose to live apart from God's plan, with God's foreknowledge, sin and spiritual death came upon the human race. Jesus came to earth to reverse the effects of sin and death and make the world new, beginning with redeeming humanity. One day, he will renew the entire cosmos.
Not
You're
too
muted.
bad, right?
Oh, no, you're lagging. You're good. You're good. Your video was lagging. Go ahead. Yeah, that one, we don't have too much. I'd say in regards to renewing the entire cosmos, his incarnation has already done that to some degree. It's already been sanctified, correct?
Well, it's like what the Schmemann phrase, already not yet.
Already not yet. Exactly. Yeah. So transhumanism. Now they move into defining transhumanism. Humans can and should use science and technology to improve the human condition and the world. Science and technology can participate in God's mission to renew the world. This refers not just to physical and cognitive enhancement, but also spiritual and moral enhancement. So science is going to morally enhance us. While enhancing humans comes with great risk, if managed well, we should welcome enhanced humanity so long as we reflect the glory of God and fulfill our vocation to Christ likeness.
Yeah, that's left really ambiguous on purpose, I think.
Yeah, no doubt.
And like you pointed out too, morally enhance.
Yeah, how would science morally enhance us?
Vitamins. You take your moral vitamins today, which is really interesting because if you read, why am I blanking on the? Oh my gosh, I can't remember the name of the book for some reason. Who wrote Brave New World? He wrote the psychedelic.
Aldous Huxley.
Aldous Huxley, but with the psychedelic book that he.
The Doors of Perception.
Yeah, Doors of Perception. Who's obviously like himself a proto
and a eugenicist.
Yeah, transhumanist.
Yep.
He talked about, and even in Brave New World, so much stuff. What was the line from Doors of Perception? Virtue in a bottle.
Yes.
To use sites, so it's already present all the way back with him, which I find interesting.
Right, and his brother Julian Huxley is actually the gentleman who coined the term transhumanism, and he defined it as the religionless religion, the religion without revelation. It's the religion of rationalism, and he defined this in a book called New Skins for New Wine. And he talked about how basically humanity was going to take on a new skin in regards to transhumanism, and that this was going to be the destiny. What's so interesting is he wrote this stuff in like the 20s through the 50s. So all this has already been discussed at length well before he reached the 21st century.
Good point.
Okay. You want to say anything more about that? Go ahead.
Well, again, it's just ambiguous. First of all, science and technology can participate in God's mission to renew the world. There's nothing orthodox or theological about that science is going to renew the world.
Right.
That man through techne and techniques and manipulating nature will renew the world. The way that the world is restored is grace through death, and the way that one acquires the Holy Spirit and the virtues, right? Not by manipulating. So you're already seeing signs of the kind of neo-Gnostic.
Yep. Well, and this idea that creation has been left it's almost created, right? So this idea that we, through our science, are going to complete this process, and that's why I was highlighting about the one day he will renew the cosmos, because in a way they're bringing the creation back to God, and then on the judgment they're going to renew it. This sort of existential use of science to divinize ourselves, because that's going to be really essential. Eventually, is going to come in here. That theosis is going to be understood technologically, because they're not going to have the energy essence distinction in regards to how they actually participate with God. They're going to participate with God by the enacting of these virtues, so to speak, through technology, through science. Science and technology is the means in which man can work like God in the world.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a huge part. Okay, physicalism here. Humans in the universe are inherently physical. The physical universe is created and is good. The material world is a permanent feature of creation, which overlaps and interlocks with the non-physical world. The latter consists of at least forms, archetypes, mathematics, and creative intelligence, as well as emergent phenomenon which interact with the physical world. Physicalism is distinct from simple materialism in that it does not deny the existence of a non-material component to reality. It simply takes the position that most phenomena can be understood in terms of the properties of the physical universe. So this is them able to adopt the materialistic world, which is why they're going to be in favor of Darwinian theory of evolution. Again, the utilization of technology for divinization, the belief in extraterrestrials and aliens, all this different stuff, this space exploration. They're going to be able to adopt in this Christian worldview the entire materialistic scientific paradigm, and then add a little bit more of a spiritual lens to it in regards to Christianity.
I mean, it's just first of all, just philosophically, this is just retarded.
It's not that sophisticated, no. It's a lot of gobbledygook. Somebody who knows a little bit, because when we get in here, they're going to talk about Karl Popper and new matrix epistemology. But
what does this even mean? The material world is a permanent feature of creation, which one of the most obvious features of material is that it isn't. It's constantly changing. There's nothing in the physical world that's going to tell you that the physical world endures forever.
Right.
Right. It's of all the things that this is, even an Aristotelian argument that the immortality of the soul. Most people don't know that Aristotle actually had like a one-line argument in the metaphysics for this, but was because
philosophistry. I like that. It's a philosophistry, according to Dr. Xavier.
So it's just, look, it's the material that isn't permanent, right? Both in an Aristotelian and a Platonic sense. So it's just stupid, and this is just a dumb assertion. Physical is distinct from simple materialism. First of all, what's simple materialism?
Yeah, what is simple materialism?
And physicalism is a form of materialism. I mean,
absolutely.
This is, and it does deny the existence of non-material components. And second of all, it's just a stupid assertion to say that most phenomena can be understood in terms of the properties of physical universe. How would you know that? What a dumb.
Well, and again, this is what I think they're trying to do with this physicalism is adopt the materialistic worldview, but say, oh, well, this isn't simple materialism because we believe in the Trinity. We believe in God. We believe in Jesus Christ. We just believe in physicalism, not simple materialism. Well,
it's like, what's the term that methodological versus ontological, methodological physicalism versus metaphysical physicalism. Sorry, not physical naturalism. Methodological naturalism versus metaphysical naturalism. If you wanted to be sharp, that you'd make those distinctions. That one says that only that which exists is physical, and understood in terms of naturalism, meaning there are no non-natural entities, no non-physical. The other one is just the methodology that we learn. So what you see couched in here, whether they know it or not, is at the bare minimum methodological naturalism. All things should be approached through in terms of
A naturalistic,
epistemology.
absolutely. Well, yeah. And if you've heard these guys talk, they absolutely believe that. That's essential for their worldview. I mean, when we get down here to critical rationalism and all this different stuff, we'll see that. Next term is cosmism. The physical universe is sacred. Oh, and its development is spiritually significant. Human spirituality and morality are a manifestation of a moral and spiritual awakening of the cosmos itself. Oh, wow. We are part of how the universe is evolving towards its future form. So I didn't know that the cosmos itself was made in the image. So that's a new one. That's a new one because they're equating consciousness, again, these sort of epiphenomenon, be it the Gaia hypothesis by Lovelock. They're doing the same thing just with the cosmos. It's sort of a panpsychism, if you will.
That's right. Or paganism.
Or paganism. Yeah, it's just a cosmic paganism.
Yeah. I thought you said cosbyism.
Cosmism.
Okay.
So, all right. This is Article 1. We got a lot to get through here, but we've already seen this is how they define Christianity. Again, we can pretty much adopt that. A very generic. Basically, they just hit at the points which unifies Protestantism, Catholicism, and Orthodoxy. Is that we believe in a Trinity, we believe in Jesus Christ, we believe that He's going to come again. Okay, yeah, we can agree with that. Transhumanism, they give it this this divine, austere exterior that we're going to renew the world through our science and technology. We're going to participate in God's mission to renew it through science. Therefore, we need to adopt physicalism, which is just a shout out to Amptown, a distinction without difference between materialism. They're just doing that so that they can say, well, we adopt all these things. And then cosmism, the cosmos is sacred. Okay, these are Article 1. Now we're getting to your bread and butter. Epistemology and ethical frameworks. So the first thing they say is critical rationalism, testing ideas against evidence and reason and improving ideas considering such evidence using conjecture and critique formulated by Karl Popper. So does that include revelation? Because that doesn't seem like that would include revelation.
Critical rationalism, testing ideas against evidence and reason and improving. First of all, that's not what was interesting about Karl Popper is that he understood that things are paradigm relative. So already they're kind of, do you see they're presenting something that sounds really nice and coherent? It's already incoherent.
It's already incoherent.
They're presenting this idea that evidence and reason is theory neutral. That's not something that Karl Popper actually believed. Right. So, well, how do you do that? Improving ideas considering such evidence using conjecture. Okay, so what they're probably saying there is, this is just really sloppy. What Karl Popper did is he didn't believe that you could actually prove something, that science could actually prove something, that it could be this critical rationalism. He thought what the idea was to move away from induction,
right?
And that science's job was to disprove, like eliminate, right? Like by principles of falsification and stuff like that. And his heuristic that he set up was the more bold and ambitious. So this would be something like the conjecture. What science wants to do is make something that's easily and readily refutable, that could be observed and critiqued. So I'm expecting maybe that's what they mean by conjecture. I don't know what. And then critique is probably falsified. So I'm trying to remember the phrase that Karl Popper uses.
Because this is what his basis for the criticism of logical positivism, because the idea that they could then prove factual statements by way of logical, logical language, essentially,
Yes.
and using science to get to that. I mean, he highlights that, you can't do that, and you're presupposing the the scientific method without applying it to your own methodology. I mean, did the scientific method, did you find that through logical positivism by the use of measurement and average? Of course not. And so it seems like they've kind of misunderstood Karl Popper here.
I think so. Oh man, I'm trying to figure out the phrase. Boldness, novelty. So the idea of science is, and I think this is what they mean by conjecture. They're just not good at saying it. You make really, really bold statements. Like you put yourself out there where it's like, my God, son, that's really easily like refuted. We could just see that. Well, that was the kind of idea, so that you could eliminate the rest, and that needs to be very bold and novel. So perhaps that's what conjecture. But again, these are just kind of meaningless, ambiguous terms that sound nice. They tickle the ears, right? But when we unpack it, it's like I don't even think they know what they're talking about. And I think we're going to continue to see this.
Absolutely. Here and here, if we just go in and put in critical rationalism. What they're doing is basically going and getting these wiki pages. Where is it? Here it is. Critical rationalism is an epistemological philosophy advanced by Karl Popper on the basis that if a statement cannot be logically deduced from what it is known, it might nevertheless be possible to logically falsify it, right? So they were totally missing that this critical rationalism is based on the principle of falsification.
Falsification, yeah.
Following Hume, Popper rejected any inductive logic, and that is amplitative, i.e. any logic that can provide more knowledge than deductive logic. In other words, if we cannot assert it logically, we should at least try to logically falsify it, which led Popper to his falsifiability criterion.
Yeah. So deduction is, remember, he's responding to two things. He's responding to refuting the logical positivists, right, and which would do the camp of inductivism. And so, well, we could use deductivism and deduction. Deduction's used to reveal the consequences of theories so that they can be tested and perhaps falsified. That's basically it. But these guys don't know what they're talking about. But that's just to sum it up. And so you're right. They're probably copying and pasting and then not even explaining well Wikipedia stuff.
Right. New matrix epistemology is different domains of knowledge, hard and soft sciences, revelations, mathematics, cultural, socio-political, and archetypal truths need different epistemological tools. CTA is Christian Transhumanist Association is developing the new matrix epistemology. Wow, they're on the cusp here of the epistemic problems of the world, because our widely differing questions, hard science to theology to UBI, need different epistemological tools.
UBI. Oh yeah, real new and novel. The ancients knew that you used different tools. What's the joke that all of us use, referring to Bonson? The crackers in the pantry fallacy.
Right.
But the way that you look, and so we're speaking in the epistemological category, the way that you look for something epistemologically or test is the same across the board. Well, that's the fallacy of crackers in the pantry, that the way that you look for love is the same way that you look for crackers in the pantry. This is the naive empiricist kind of an atheist epistemology. But the ancients knew that no, you use different standards for different things. The way that you look for something in the soft sciences or test evidence in socio-political analyses and stuff like that is obviously very different. So, and then they go, so it's an old idea that they're like, hey, I just came up with this idea.
Yeah, we'll have a matrix, a web of different epistemologies. Therefore, we don't have to choose one. Revelation can be one. Hard science can be one. And the idea we need a universal basic income can be another one.
You know what they should entitle this? Epistemology, diversity, inclusion, and epistemology.
Yeah, that'd be good. Well, I'm sure we're going to come to that because most of the transhuman advocates that I've uncovered through my research, almost all of them are pro-LGBTQ because it has to do with body autonomy. All right. Their next one. Now let's get into their ethics because they're just like, well, we're all of them. Their ethics, their virtue ethics, deontological ethics, and utilitarian ethics. Broadly, Scripture provides 3 different ethical frameworks. Ethical dilemmas should be viewed through all 3 lenses.
What?
Virtue ethics. Virtue ethics emphasize what a type of person your actions are shaping you to become. Is your action that of a virtuous person? Christian virtues include humility, patience, compassion, faith, hope, and selfless love. The use of technology should embody Christian virtues.
Oh, well, now it makes sense. I put my transhumanist glasses on.
Yeah.
I thought it was retarded, but once I put these glasses on. Hey, you gotta check these out, Patrick.
Yeah, they live.
All right, wait a minute.
A Christian transhuman, as Christians, transhumanist or not, the most virtuous person we can imitate or take on the nature of is Christ. Therefore, the most ethical way to develop and use technology is to do so in a way that makes us and wider humanity more like Christ. Virtue ethics are an active form of human enhancement. They enhance humans who use them.
This is like, oh wait, it says here the author is, this is a 9th grade book report.
Yeah.
A 9th grader's book. Doesn't it read like somebody in high school wrote this?
It does. It does. So in regards to the virtue ethics, so what we can see here, at least what I take from it, is they're equating virtue with this idea of the progressive of technology. So because technology will enhance us, well, look, virtues and virtue ethics also enhance you. You see, they're trying to create a parallel there between the technology and the idea of virtue ethics, Aristotelian concept of virtue ethics.
So that's if I had to identify that as a fallacy, that would be the fallacy of equivocation. The way that we talk about human enhancement in terms of virtue is different than science. So enhancement, human enhancement does not mean the same thing everywhere that term's used. So what they're doing is they're equivocating on that term, right? And pretending that they're actually linked to form some sort of syllogism. Human enhancement is good. No, virtue X is a form of human enhancement. Science is a form of human enhancement. Therefore, science is enhancing is good. I don't know. Like, I'd have to write it out. But you get what I'm kind of saying. They're trying to do some sort of kind of inherent syllogism that's fallacious because the middle term, human enhancement, it doesn't mean the same thing in both contexts. That's what I would say.
Right. Okay, now they get into Kantian deontological ethics. So now we're into the Enlightenment and understanding ethical relationships as duties. Deontology. Deon means duty. Deontology takes the form of rules that determine acceptable behavior and conduct. A clear Christian example of deontology is the adherence to the 10 Commandments. Deontological principles are found inherent in the created universe and in the non-physical world. They are reflected in Christian scripture and other ethical codes which have emerged. Deontological principles should be followed because they are inherently moral. For example, do unto others. Deontological principles are either revealed in scripture or found in the basic principles of the universe. Deontology is less common in transhumanism, but provides a balance to utilitarian ethics.
So do you see what they're doing? They're picking up one word.
Yeah.
Duty. That's
duty.
It's almost kind of like the way that you get these weird kind of conspiracy theorists, Gnostics. Red. Well, red sounds like Ra. The god of Ra is connected to, if you spell that backwards, the Grammatia, right? Like it's almost kind of like this, right? So they pick up on one thing. Oh, deontology, deon means duty. Guess what? Who else used duty? Christians.
Moses and the Ten Commandments.
Moses. So anywhere you see duty, it's like, well, therefore, Christianity is deontological, right? Like, do you see how silly this is?
Right.
And then once you fill up utilitarianism, I'm going to go and then show how these are actually incompatible systems.
Right. So utilitarianism says that an action which results in the greatest good for the greatest number is the most ethical action. It is common in both secular and religious transhumanism. Life extension technology, cybernetics, and artificial intelligence, transhumanists argue, will create a world with less suffering and more human freedom. Thus, they would argue that developing these technologies is the ethical thing to do. Christian transhumanists would agree that these technologies should lead to much good. The problems with over-reliance on utilitarianism are the following. 3 points. The consequences in any consequentialist ethics system, utilitarianism is a subset, are subject to value judgments, making utilitarianism reliant in part on deontological ethics. The impact of consequences of a particular action are subject to evidence filtration by those in power who may or may not be good faith actors. Reduction in suffering and increase in happiness may not result in positive consequences if we are not becoming better people.
That's not even correct. But so again, this is just a really neophyte and elementary kind of understanding what these positions are. So I'll show you how they're all three are incompatible. Virtue ethics isn't simply like virtues are good to acquire. Deontological isn't simply we believe in duties. And utilitarianism isn't simply the greatest good for the greatest number. Okay. So they're glossing over these things.
Right. Making mass generalizations.
Also, the reason why that they're incompatible is that virtue ethics basically says there is no prescribed law that is true for all situations, all people at all time. Now, that's not relativism. What it means is it places the virtue, and it comes from Aristotle. What's the right thing? What's the good? Go ask the good person, which is exactly what we do in Orthodoxy. Go ask the one who's acquired the Holy Spirit, your spiritual father. And there is no set answer for that. It's going to depend on the situation, and only the wise person who's acquired the spiritual and intellectual virtues is not going to be able to have access to that and prescribe. That goes directly against deontological ethics. And deontological Kantian ethics will say it's always wrong to lie. You know what St. Basil says? Sometimes it's necessary and good to lie. We can only think about, you're hiding innocent children from a crazy psychopath dad.
Yeah, in the attic. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's good to lie.
Child in the attic. Well, I'm a Kantian. I have to, That's, I have to separate my emotions to this protecting this child and do duty for duty's sake, right? So that's already a contradict. Virtue ethics would contradict that and be like, no, you actually, the wise and virtuous man would actually break the duty. Okay, so utilitarian consequentialism isn't simply the greatest good for the greatest number of people. It's a position that basically says there's no intrinsic goods, that all good is relative to consequences, right? Do you see that?
Right.
And what they call optimific, which is that which yields the greatest benefits over the drawbacks. So you can already see that, well, that contradicts, in fact, Kantian deontological ethics.
Well, here's their explanation for using all three
ethical systems. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Go ahead.
Using all three ethical systems. Christian transhumanists support Scripture's use of all three ethical frameworks to balance out their respective strengths and weaknesses. Deontological Christian principles provide an overarching guide for technological innovation. This includes, for example, the sanctity of human life. Humans should always be treated as ends and not means to an end, Kant. Therefore, genetic modifications to create specific types of humans to fill particular roles in the society or economy for the benefit of others, example given caste system, is unprincipled, as would be creating humans for the purpose of organ harvesting. A purely utilitarian response cannot explain why using humans as a means to an end is wrong if it leads to good consequences. The utilitarian response to the transplant question, should a doctor kill one healthy bystander to use their organs to save the life of 5 sick people, contradicts the deontological principle of the human rights of the healthy. Using virtue ethics, we learn the moral perfection of humans is the goal we strive for. We expect to find similar striving elsewhere in the universe.
Okay, so there's something true about them and weird. I would agree with that to some extent. But what I don't get is, and like I said, we have to treat things not piecemeal, and I think this is what they're doing. Can I find true statements in different systems? Of course you can. Like, who would think you couldn't?
Right.
The question is, as a whole, deontological or Kantian ethics is a failed system as a whole, ethical system. So is utilitarianism, and so is any other secular. So here's my question then. Christianity already has, they're flipping it. It seems like what they want to do, they want to define a new Christianity according to secular systems. They want to derive and be like, I'll just take a little bit of this, and I'll add a little bit of this. I like what this sounds like. And then I make a hodgepodge smorgasbord of my neo-Christianity, right? Where it's the opposite. Christianity already has the fullness of faith. And what it transcends and does not need to be derived or reduced to any of these philosophies or ethical systems, but it's that by which we judge, right? You don't prove Christianity. Christianity is that by which you prove anything else. And likewise, you don't say Christianity is true because these things are true. Christianity is the fullness of truth. Orthodox Christianity is the fullness of truth. And that's why I'm able to judge, yeah, there's something right about you shouldn't treat humans as an ends only. As a means only, but as an end.
Right.
Does that make sense? So they've inverted it.
Yep.
Because they're making up their new religion.
Yep. It is a new religion. And so here, let's hear their articles of God. Article 3, God. The triune God of the Nicene Christian tradition exists in 3 separate but co-equal persons in perfect harmony and relationship. At his core, God is love and community. He is omnipotent, omniscient, omnipresent, and omnibenevolent. God's Trinitarian nature means that God's purpose for creating the universe was to expand this love beyond the eternal divine community of the Trinity. All beings from the microbes to post-biological superintelligence were or will be created to participate in some way, regardless of how small or large. And the cosmic community, which begins with the Holy Trinity in the cosmic community. In Christian transhumanism, God, the triune creator, can be thought of in a variety of ways. These include the following: the programmer of the simulation. Well, that would insinuate a sort of determinism. There goes free will. The uncaused cause that is external to this creation. The concept of causation is at least fundamentally different to inside. Okay. It seems strange, weirdly worded. The reality that underlies the cosmos that is only in part comprehensible to human reason. Despite this limited comprehensibility, we see God speaking clearly through nature, through prophets, and through the incarnation of the Logos, the creative, self-expressive part of the Trinity.
Yeah, what does
Omega
that
point
even mean? I don't even get that. I'm stuck on it. Fundamentally different to inside.
I don't know what that means. I don't know.
You just stump somebody, like, you know why the officer's like, you know why I pulled you over? Fundamentally different to inside, I imagine.
I think they're just trying to say that the causation of God creating the universe is fundamentally different than the chain of our concept of the chain of causation within creation. But
I don't know. Let's just move past.
I don't know. And then the last point, we got Desjardins here with the omega point of complexity and consciousness towards which the universe is evolving. Pierre Teilhard Desjardins. The omega point is properly outside of time and exists both prior to the beginning of the universe and at the end point of the cosmic history. So they're highlighting then that, I guess, a very
process theology right there.
Yeah, and it's exactly, it's process theology, and it's a very similar concept that I see again within other transhumanists, that we're going to, the fall was where we fell from like perfection, and therefore through technology we're going to return to perfection. And that isn't our understanding of the historical timeline. Again, Adam and Eve, just even before the fall, were not in the same matured state that even we get to participate in now post the incarnation. And so this is why they couldn't eat from the tree of knowledge and all this different stuff. So they have a totally different understanding of the historical timeline of the relationship of the fall, the garden, and then the endpoint, the teleology of creation, because they're making the assumption that the beginning point and the end point are the same point. And and again, they'd have to make the argument. So I guess they're focusing on human civilization in regards to complexity, the point of complexity and consciousness towards the universe is evolving. Interesting. So we see then again, very weird.
You say they use St. Maximus?
Yes. Yeah.
So by the way, St. Maximus does say, but they're obviously not understanding it correctly, probably. The beginning and the end, like he talks about the beginning and the end points being similar, right, but the kind of out in terms of what Bishop Maximo was talking about in terms of the eschaton and the already not yet and stuff like this.
Right.
Anyways, I just thought they're probably picking up misunderstanding Maximus and developing and mixing it with this stuff.
So they have a programmer understanding of God. So God is a programmer. Then he's the cause and reason for creation. The reality that underlies the cosmos is only part comprehensible to human reason. Despite this limited comprehensibility, we see God speaking clearly through nature.
Hey, by the way, can I just rewind to the programmer of the simulation?
Yeah, so they're already equating creation as a simulation.
Yeah, so what's so silly about that? A simulation of what? So already you've got this kind of Gnostic tendency that God creates something unreal, something imperfect. right? A simulation is imperfect.
Yeah,
Because why? It's
and
a
it calls into
simulation
questions
of the archetype.
it
Now,
calls
and I
into
don't
questions
think
of
they mean
knowability.
I don't think that they mean God's creating based on his eternal logoid, right?
Right.
I think they have
And
something very different in mind. Yeah, go ahead.
well, I was going to say if creation is a simulation, then it begs the question of epistemic knowability. Because how do we know that the simulation maps on one-to-one? How do you come to know something? That's why simulation theory is often, I've seen people use the rhetoric of Maya within Hinduism or some of the Dharmic traditions, that materialism is actually an illusion. Well, if that's the case, how do you then make, epistemic claims? It calls it sort of
And by the way,
undermines
this
that
is
ability.
all couched out in the Gnosticism of the Matrix movies too, right?
Right.
Which is thoroughly, admittedly, Gnostic, right? It's all Maya and illusion, and you've got to break past and see the real world, and it's gonna be human knowledge that brings salvation, right? Not the Christian message. Anyways, it's all there.
So they have a convoluted understanding of God. Here's their understanding of creation. A simulation run by a divine programmer, God. The universe can be thought of in a variety of ways in Christian transhumanism. A simulation run by a divine programmer, God. This calls into question epistemic knowability and free will. God's technology, which God uses to carry out his ultimate plan to create an infinite number of beings to love and with which to have a relationship. What? God uses technology, God's technology, which God uses to carry out his ultimate plan. What? Creation's a technology? Is that what they're trying to? It sounds like so God's technology, we're coming to understand what creation is. God's technology, which God uses to carry out his ultimate plan to create an infinite number of beings.
They're just equivocating on the term technology.
Yeah. I mean, this is word concept fallacy stuff.
Hey, by the way, it just made me have a thought, because you're at the graduate. Why am I blanking on in Berkeley?
GTU, Graduate Theological Union.
So it was making me think about Berkeley too, and I just like to reference people to the famous Heideggerian scholar Hubert Dreyfus. And Hubert Dreyfus worked at MIT for a while. He's really good too, and his kind of Heideggerian approach to the philosophy of mind and anti-functionalists and physicalists, they keep using this terminology and analogies that computer analogies. So you see this creator programmer, hardware, software with the mind. Hubert Dreyfus is an excellent kind of refutation that the computers don't run anything like the mind.
Right. Well, and what they're trying to do by doing this is dissolve the distinction between natural and artificial.
Yep, absolutely.
And so it's a sort of rhetorical sleight of hand, whether it's intentional or just sloppy philosophy. But
what's interesting that he brings out is that computers process, they're getting faster and faster. But the way that human brains in the mind process information is actually slower. So it's actually contrary to artificial intelligence, right? There's something that's really kind of loose, organic, and sloppy about the way that we do that ends up being far superior and can do things that computations of rapid information can't actually do. So the whole model is incorrect. The whole starting point of the principle of computation and computers, and John Searle talks about this, and he worked with Hubert Dreyfus, as you know, at UC Berkeley. They talk about this. It's just like there actually isn't any comparison. So we're not going to go too far into that, but I just want people, for further information as a citation, to reference both John Searle and Hubert Dreyfus on this to show that like you can't be making these analogies.
If nature is God's technology, then the human ability to create technology is sacred and an imitation of the divine, part of the imago Dei. Physics still has many mysteries to solve, but it seems the creation is non-deterministic, with some level of randomness and chaos. It is evident that it has been established with the principle of emergence and growth. God built it such that intentionality arises within creation. Desire, inspiration, consciousness, choice making, selfishness, and altruism have emerged, reflecting in Scripture the fallen state of humanity with the image of God still visible. Given the complexity of causality, it appears we are in an engineered artifact where causation is a feature. Thus, causation is a feature of the simulation / creation as a restatement of the cosmological argument, can see God as external to creation, allowing causation to occur according to physical laws. This is a more defensible position than any assertion that the universe is self-existent or self-creating brute fact, or on the other hand, that some kind of infinite regression of multiverses exist. So I guess what they're arguing is that technology creation, synonymous. Us creating technology is participating in God's creativity. Thereby, our causation is a sort of, though different from God's, it's the continuation of God's divine causation.
By the way, I just realized something because I did this in my PhD and I was wrong.
What's that?
So they're going to actually use this non-deterministic randomness and chaos together with physical laws to develop their theory of evolution. I just realized. Right. So you already see in this, and there's nothing intrinsically wrong with this guy, the idea of secondary causation, right?
Right.
That God can be a proximate cause, but also a secondary cause. And in some cases, when he's a secondary cause, is not the proximate cause. There's nothing wrong with that. I believe that this is implicit in what they're saying. It's not well spelt out, but they're going to misappropriate that for obviously what they're going to develop, what they want technology to be, and the transhumanism, right. And then also their claims on evolution. So just keep that in mind.
Right. Yeah. And as the bourgeois beatnik says, this is a hot mess. It is. And it's clearly what makes it even more difficult to engage with is that they don't use clear philosophical language. It's that's why jargon is that when you step into the domain, be it whatever field, if you go into the medical field, you got to know what the jargon is so that you can clearly communicate to each other. And so they're not using philosophical jargon in a sort of disciplined, educated way. Clearly they've read some stuff and they're trying to put a lot of ideas together without using the correct jargon. They can't see that these things are actually conflicting. All right. So their creation is a simulation by the divine programmer God. I guess, therefore, wouldn't that insinuate the ultimate way of being would be to be a technological programmer? Wouldn't that insinuate that would be the ultimate form of theosis?
Yep.
It seems like it. Okay, Article 5, Humanity. Humans are a species whom God has called to his image bearers and created co-creators. God has made humans co-pilots in the evolution of life, consciousness, and the cosmos. Just as God created his own divine technology, nature / cosmos, which evolves ever more toward complexity and consciousness, humanity is meant to do the same through its own methodology, or own technology, Scripture contains the allegory of the fall. This reflects our experience that humans are born with a mix of both the image of God and the fallen sinful inheritance. Well, that'd be Augustinian original sin anthropology.
Notice they threw in the allegory of the fall.
Yeah, the allegory. Yep, exactly.
Well, wait a minute. If it's just an allegory,
Then why do you have a fallen human nature?
and then second of all, that would just make Christ's death and resurrection just an
Some
allegorical
type of symbol.
solution to an allegorical problem.
Exactly. We should not state that humans are entirely good nor entirely evil. Beyond reasonable doubt, we are a mix. This can be described as brokenness and is likely to be ethically justifiable, subject to Article 2, to use technology and culture to try to improve this mix. Well, how could you know that you're improving it fully? Again, if we're in a creation or a simulation, that causes epistemic unknowability. And so how exactly do you know that you are making it better through technology? You could point to multiple instances in which it has done the opposite. Humans have a unique ability to create explanatory knowledge and mediate the improvement of our species through knowledge, culture, and technology. Again, it's just a lot of filler words.
Yeah,
we are to use knowledge, culture, and technology to create ever greater complexity and consciousness. Well, how do we create more complex consciousness? Again, this is the hard problem in the philosophy of mind, is that consciousness is undefinable and nobody knows what it is. Is it hylomorphic? Is it an emergent property? Is it purely materialistic? Nobody really knows. The ultimate aim should be to imitate the original creator, God, through love. Humans should create through love, just as God also creates through love. Okay. Like it.
Bunch of niceties there.
Oh my God. It's just using a mixture of language. So their understanding is that we're fallen due to the allegory of the fall. This reflects our experience, and this explains why we're both good and evil. And because we're both good and evil, then we need to use technology to make society and culture better. And we have the unique ability to create explanatory knowledge. Therefore, we need to create like God through love. Okay? That does. All right. So I guess we can agree with aspects of the Imago Dei in regards to us being co-creators with God, that we have the ability to be creative.
Mm-hmm.
But in regards to just as God created his own divine technology, nature, cosmos, that needs to be justified to some extent. Like you can't just say that creation is a divine technology. And technology is a tech, and that's where, again, technology, like I literally, that's part of my dissertation, is I'm talking about technologies for transcendence. And so the Greek word is techne, which means a sort of means to an end. So God's creation is just a means to an end. And I guess
what's also weird too is, here's just a unjustified assumption. Why is the teleological goal or end complexity? Guys, if we just make things more complex, it will solve all of our problems. Yeah. Right. Which seems to be kind of contrary to it's the simplicity that that seems to want to be achieved, right? That things seem to get worse when they get more complex. And second of all, it just is kind of contradictory to the second law of thermodynamics anyways, that things don't get better in physical systems through complexity over time. They actually every system breaks down.
And this theory, so again, we see right here, so they're putting their anthropology is a mixture, obviously, of process theology. And so we can see, and this is why even Terence McKenna and much of the psychedelic mystics believe in a process theology of novelty. And so this is their argument, that what psychedelics do is they create more novel pathways, connections, and that the point of humanity has become more and more complex. And they argue that that is the nature of human history. All right. Next section, Article 6. What are you doing over there? Are you texting or something?
I'm just trying to get my Neuralink hooked up so I can get the right answers to the. There I go. I'm hooked up now.
All right. Science. Science is both in its definition as a body of knowledge and its definition as a method of understanding the natural world is one of the tools God has given humans to carry out their mission to be created co-creators. The soft social sciences and the hard physical sciences serve different roles. Okay, hard physical sciences. Hard physical sciences, physics, chemistry, biology, geology, astronomy, etc., help us to understand how the universe works and how we can change it for better, for both the better of humanity and the universe itself. Again, them continuing to talk about the universe is so new agey because they don't know anything about it. Like, how do you know you're going to make the universe better? That's ridiculous. That's such a bombastic claim. The hard sciences rely heavily on the interaction between experimentation, observation, theoretization, and mathematics to understand the universe and formulate explanatory knowledge or hypotheses to explain natural phenomenon. Since the subjects of the hard sciences are not generally aware that they are being studied, it is relatively easy to obtain a high level of objectivity in the physical sciences.
Okay. How do you get objectivity?
They don't know apparently.
Covertly spy on people without them knowing about it. And that's how you get objective. What a dumb statement.
Well, and just because physical sciences deal with non-animate things doesn't mean that the interpretation of data isn't subjective. Like that doesn't mean anything. Like, people can look at the same experiment in the same data set and have different interpretations of what it means. So, okay, now the soft sciences. The social sciences study the universe of human social behavior. Prominent social sciences include psychology, sociology, economics, and anthropology. The social sciences are also based on observation, but experimentation can be limited. Because social scientific theories can be tested against evidence through predictions about expected observations or by performing experiments, social scientific theories are still science in the Popperian sense. Nevertheless, the subjects of the social sciences are aware that they are being studied and their behavior will inevitably be impacted by social scientific theories attempting to explain human social behavior. For this reason, it is harder to attain the same degree of objectivity that can be attained in the physical sciences. One consequence of this lesser objectivity is that worldview and ideology play a larger role in the social sciences than the physical sciences.
I'm just looking up something about Popper real quick. Keep going.
Relation to theology and special revelation. So Christian transhumanists reject the NOMA, non-overlapping magisteria concept of Stephen Jay Gould, that science and faith are completely separate, non-overlapping realms. Christian transhumanists also reject the idea that science and faith are inherently in conflict or that one should dictate the other. Both routes to truth. Revealed truth and science mutually complement and affirm each other. For example, the extreme fine-tuning of the cosmological constants of the universe for life points to the possibility that the universe was created or the simulation was programmed to result in life and intelligence. Faith adds value guidance to science, which must borrow values from some other discipline. Faith, okay? Revealed truths that the universe is created and functions by discoverable laws that forms the archetypes, good and evil exist and are reflected in human society, are a necessary undergirding group of truths and conjectures that interact with hard and soft sciences. What? So it's okay. So first of all, the idea of this non-overlapping magisteria, they're claiming that oh yeah, we believed in revealed truth, but then as we'll see, they also believe in the Big Bang. They also believe in Darwinian evolution. So was there death before the fall?
Yeah.
Did God actually create the world? How old is the world? So they don't really believe in revealed truths.
And it seems that they're saying, because they're mutually dependent on each other, that science can inform and correct faith at times. Now, of course, our faith isn't going to give us methodological kind of standards in specific science questions, right? And so there is a sort of kind of autonomy, but there's, in terms of epistemic standards, science, both soft and hard, cannot actually provide any knowledge statements whatsoever. And therefore, the only epistemic standard has to be the fullness of the faith, right?
Right.
So there's nothing in which these lower level, even if they can be done properly, has to add or correct the faith. So that's just incorrect. Now, I think we would agree that correct science and faith are not in contrast, but they're not. I don't like this language of.
Well, it's certainly not academic, but AC throws it. He makes a really good point here. Throws in a super chat. Says this is pulling from Greg Heinrich's UTOK theory. That's the unified theory of knowledge. And so, again, this is where you could precept them using the tag argument: is what epistemic justification has ultimate authority. And so, as we would point out, it'd be revealed knowledge, which gives the basis for all these things. Therefore, it's just fitting like revealed knowledge as allegorical truth and fitting that into the scientific paradigm is what they are doing. And it's really just lip service to Christians to say, oh, yeah, we believe in scripture, too.
And notice what he says here, faith adds value, guidance to science. So this is this kind of Enlightenment Jeffersonian kind of, it's all allegorical. Like, it's not the same. Facts is science, which is real facts. Science. The Bible's just moral guidance, and we need that, or allegorical, right? And they're missing the whole point of what faith actually. Faith isn't simply moral, right? We just talked about it. It's the highest epistemic standard. It's the highest facts of facts, like.
That's what they define next here is faith. Article 7, faith. Faith is the assurance we feel about what we cannot prove.
See?
No, that is not what faith is not a limbo state that we occupy until the scientific method gives us certainty. It also carries the meaning of faithfulness and a worldview you are relying upon and acting in accordance with. Faith is more than intellectual affirmation. The assertion by atheists that faith is holding belief in spite of evidence is a straw man specifically contradicted by numerous verses of scripture and reliable theological foundations. Some Christians deny scientific evidence. This is unfortunate and not warranted by scripture. Some atheists deny they have faith, yet they have faith as described in scripture, that the universe is self-existent, or that the eternal questions are not important. What? Faith requires trust, that we rely on God when he tells us things that we do not quite understand or fully comprehend. So again, faith is a limbo state. It is based on the character of God as revealed in creation and the life of Jesus. This faith is not blind because although we may not understand those things, we have good reason to trust the source. These reasons include the moral nature of God, the reasonableness of Scripture. Reasonableness. What? Okay. The compelling evidence for the resurrection, evidence of a higher purpose in the universe and universal moral principles that cross cultures. Faith statements are not scientifically provable, but they are logical, make sense, and are compelling in light of what is known about reality, despite there not being direct testable evidence. Believing that Jesus is the Son of God who has come to take away the sins of the world and renew creation results in a compelling way to live and order society superior to any human system. Faith sits within an epistemic framework. Humanity's epistemic framework continues to advance. A Christian faith fits well within the best epistemology in the fallibilistic traditions of Popper, Kuhn, and Deutsch.
I want to pull up. I'm trying to find.
They are all over the place.
By the way, it talks about through faith. Oh, I'm going to find this quote. Just keep going. I don't want to misquote it.
Well, my immediate spot here is that they keep again they use secular language regarding faith. Faith doesn't need to be reasonable. Like, why does that need to be a qualifier on what faith is? Faith doesn't need to be something that is compelling.
Yeah,
right?
That's so weird.
Like that's ridiculous. And that is then fitting a sort of secular framework on why you should have faith in something. So
also, again, it moves I remember the quote now. It's through faith we think the ages from scripture. Faith is the correct faith is the epistemic grounds for all knowledge. So they've already put it in a different category, right?
Well,
so they'll be like, well, it's not against knowledge, but it's what you can't prove. So they're in one sense, they're saying they're compatible, but at the same sense, saying something that's contradictory to that, but they're in two complete different categories. Well, what's the bridge then, right? You're just making an assertion like, well, they're not incompatible, but what is it they says? If we go up here, go up to the very top again.
Yeah.
The assurance we feel, so it's in the category of feelings now.
Yeah.
Faith is feelings, and you can't ever prove it.
It's about how you feel about things you can't prove.
Let's just use the scripture verse, Hebrews 11:1. Faith is the substance, substantia in Latin, the essence, the real stuff, the ousia, of things hoped for, and the Latin's really interesting. If I have I have a Latin Greek Bible, but the Latin is argumentum. It's typically translated as the evidence of things not yet seen, and the substance of things hoped for. So notice it's already immediately tied to faith is the argument, the evidence. These are epistemic terms,
right,
of things not seen. So what that does is it puts faith in a higher epistemic category than quote unquote proving.
Right. And as Orthodox, the church is the epistemic basis of our lived experience here in the world. I mean, because the church has ultimate epistemic authority about a lot of different things, but it is the body of Christ. It is the church of Christ.
It's Hebrews right after that, Hebrews 11:3. By faith we understand the ages and how they were framed. You can look at. So notice it's in a higher epistemic category, and this is exactly the transcendental argument.
Right.
It's faith is not feelings. Of course, you don't prove faith. It's that by which you prove everything else. Like right. It is the justification for justification.
And as from our perspective, the lack of faith is why you would adopt many of the things that they believe in.
Yeah.
That if you had true faith, again, as that Hebrews verse was highlighting, that's how you come to understand the ages. It's through true faith that you can engage with God and come to fuller understanding through that participatory experience. So Again, faith is just a limbo zone for when once science can prove something, well, now you don't have to have faith in it as much because now it's knowable. So,
and by the way, this is in Thomistic philosophy too, and carried all the way out even to like John Paul II's encyclical letter Fides et Ratio, right?
mm-hmm.
They're doing the exact same thing, and like what just shows you that the faulty principle is this kind of Western mindset,
Western rational naturalism.
Yeah, that Aquinas has faith and reason in separate categories, but at the same time is going to argue, as exemplified in John Paul's encyclical letter, but they're not mutually exclusive. In fact, all of this reminds me of, and so it's a misunderstanding of both what reason and faith are.
Right. Okay, next section. We still have so much to get through. So let's section Article 8 here. Their article on technology.
Yeah,
technology is an expression of God's creative activity reflected in humanity and any human analogs. Technology is how humans imitate God in interacting with the natural world. Since technology is part of God's good creation, it is fundamentally good. Well, there could be a lot of technology that'd be bad. So that doesn't, just because it's a novel or more complex technology doesn't make it good. There could be a lot of evil that could be done through a more advanced, complex technological formation.
Can we just make a side note real quick too? Again, as far as a philosophical critique, they're just using a generic notion of techne, which in itself is not bad, like the tool of the artisan. And what I think is helpful is to bring up both Karl Marx and Heidegger's critique of technology in terms of the technological age. So Heidegger does a wonderful essay on technology and then distinguishes it and between a technological age when it becomes something more, it slips out of the hand of the artist and becomes something more and domineering, right? And again, I don't like to quote Marx, but he actually has some really good stuff to say on his essay and on technology too. So they're failing to, they want to usher in, and they're totally embracing a technological age that's become something more than the kind of traditional understanding of technology, which would be kind of value neutral in itself, right?
Right.
And they're playing on those words, like it's like, oh, technology's good, and like, but it's like, no, we live in a technological age, a technological society. That is not a good thing. That's not some, like, nobody's saying throw out your screwdrivers and hammers, right?
Right.
Our critique is of a technological age and technological society.
Right. Matvey Ignatiev throws in $1 and says, Christian transhumanism, taken to its logical conclusion, seems to have a lack of faith in God, the complete denial of personhood and soul, as if we would all turn into robots before the second coming, screams enlightenment, ideals, and Satanism. Yeah. Well, and it does cause questions regarding the essence of man, because what is human nature if you're in a robot body? Like, what, again, if we have it's in any sort of hylomorphic understanding of form and body, the soul doesn't give form to the robot, and this idea that you are just your mind is sort of implicit in the whole transhumanist worldview. So, because of sin, because of sin, even well-intended uses of technology can be corrupted by human selfishness and short-sightedness. It is for this reason that technology itself is not a source of salvation. Okay. Technology needs to be redeemed and made new with the rest of creation. Technological process is also good, but true technological process does not simply consist of technology giving humans more power over nature. It also consists of technology participating in renewing create. Well, what does renewing creation mean? It's nice language, but it has no meaning behind it. The more technology enables humans to more fully live out the image of God, and the more it renews creation, the more technology truly progresses. Again, this is just fluff language. Technological advances often initially increase inequality. In the present era, the rich are best placed to leverage advances. Christians are therefore required to ensure social structures see the benefits shared widely, while acknowledging that advances in technology and science can only be made by those with spare resources. The rapid dissemination of technology serves to equalize opportunity for the poor while offering them proportionately larger benefits and quality of life. Technological process requires social and spiritual progress, including wealth creation, moral capital creation, and community self-reliance through technology. Now, this is totally just built on a idealistic understanding of how technology might work in society, and totally not related to how it is actually working in society. Point to me how we're moving to a place of less inequality, or that the poor are getting more opportunities to equalize itself with. I mean, it's the exact opposite is happening.
You know what it reminds me of? And it's, you know, it's a scam. It's like the climate hoax, right? They say things that are actually good. Of course, we want to take care of the environment, but everything that they do doesn't take care of the environment. It makes it worse, right? And just lines the pocketbooks of the elites. So we have the same thing going on. Here is, in the name of liberty and freedom and all the values that you like, we'll get you on board as we serve up and create an environment that's just the opposite. And it's the same thing with scientism, right? The promise of, you know, curing all diseases and mental health. Like, people are more depressed and fractured and broken than ever. People are more unequal and divided than ever, right?
Rates of suicide highest. Yeah, rates of drug dependency highest. On really all metrics. Now, not that you can't live a well-meaning, you know, virtuous life right now. You absolutely can, but there's no correlation to the advancement of technology equaling the, you know, the benefit of all humanity, and that it's going to equalize opportunity for the poor. No, it's doing the opposite. It's absolutely doing the opposite. I mean, just look at the homelessness problem in California.
And quality of life, what a subjective term, but I mean, we could make it objective by saying that people are not living a better quality of, I'm sorry, high suicide rates, people mutilating their body parts and using hormone therapy, and people being more isolated, people higher addiction rates, all of this stuff, you know, communities divided, murder rate, like all the things we could point out. I'm sorry, that's not better quality of life, because it's easier for you to cook your food and turn on your TV and be connected to the internet.
Yeah, like, Timeless Perspective says literally every metric. Yeah, agreed. That's exactly what we're saying. Almost on every metric, it's getting a little.
Keep reading that. I just want to grab some more water real quick. If you don't mind.
Sure. So now we're going to get into evolution, and this is why they had to talk about the fall as allegorical.
Yes.
Because evolution, you can't have death before the fall. And so, well, if the fall is just an allegorical story to give explanatory power to how we're both good and evil, well, now we can accept evolution, because now there can be death before the fall. And now we can talk about the fall as totally an allegorical story in regards to good and evil being inherent within human nature. So here we go on their article number 9 on evolution, evolution is not simply a scientific theory of biological evolution, but represents the universe developing as planned by God towards God. Okay, so again, as we've said, this is totally consistent with process theology, process philosophy, i.e., Whitehead, and that, or even Hegelianism. I mean, Hegel had a similar understanding, and this is where, you know, Hegel influenced Darwin in understanding about this sort of process of humanity or life itself. But since the Big Bang, for 11.8 billion years, the universe has been developing to display the glory of God. Okay, well, now they've already rejected a traditional creationist understanding of the world for the Big Bang. The most recent and intense expression of this Godward movement on Earth is humanity. Oh, we're just the most recent expression, okay? Humanity, and it is also begs the question on the Imago Dei. They brought up the Imago Dei multiple times, but if humanity is just a process of like gradual change through time, where exactly did they attain the image of God? What point did the Imago Dei come into existence? Again, it begs the question there. Humanity is the part of creation that we know of that most reflects the nature of its creator. Humanity in its current condition may not be the ultimate pinnacle of creation. Other beings that are increasingly more godlike in their power to shape creation and in their capacity for love and compassion may emerge, either as successors to humanity or elsewhere in the universe. Emergence and evolution are accelerating. The universe has already gone through several watersheds. These watersheds include the origin of matter, galaxies, stars, and planets, the emergence of life 3.8 billion years ago, the dawn of modern human intelligence 100,000 years ago, the rise of agriculture 10,000 years ago, the moral awakening of the axial age perhaps 3,500 to 2,500 years ago, and the coming of Christ 2,000 years ago, the Industrial Revolution, the rise of the internet, the emergence of artificial intelligence are more recent watersheds of, again, this is God's, they said if evolution, again, is God's plan for creation, essentially. And so the emergence of enhanced humans, transhumans, posthumans, and artificial general intelligence is the next stage of yet clearer emergence and evolution. With each transition, creation is in some way closer to God, but also new challenges arise which threaten the Godward advance. Oh boy.
Godward advance. Yeah.
Yeah. So
propaganda, dude.
Well, and so this is a great point here in regards to evolution, is it calls into question, like, again, they evoked the theology of the Imago Dei, but at what point, if you believe in Darwinian Wallace theory of evolution, at what point did the Imago Dei emerge? Does that mean that the lions have the image of God? Does that mean spiders have the image of God? Where exactly did humanity
tied that into that panpsychism and reducing God to blurring the boundaries is kind of what you said between God and creation itself, which is part of process theology, part of this kind of neo-paganism, right? To reduce, well, isn't everything just kind of God, and God consciousness is just kind of spread throughout the. If you sold people on that, it'd be a lot easier to sell them on this point, right? Was that kind of what you were saying and hinting at?
Yeah. And so now they're creating, and this calls into question, like, if emerged or enhanced humans, transhuman, post-human is the redefining of what a human is, because it comes out of a school of thought that doesn't believe in universal categories. So there is no single human nature per se in a sort of metaphysical, philosophical sense. And so then that begs the entire point. Yeah, it calls into the question, like, what is man, and how is he made in the image of God? And if you change him into a post-human or transhuman entity, is he still man, or is it something else? You know, again, I'm very skeptical whether they can even create these sort of.
All right, let's pick up on that. I really like that point. All evolution's premised on nominalism. and a denial of essentialism. Because as even Aristotle understood their essences as species, there's a fixity of species, correct?
Right.
So in order for evolution to even become plausible as a theory, what do you have to do? You have to reject essentialism, and you have to mechanize nature, and you have to embrace anomalalism. Aristotle had a very clear delineation in terms of his taxonomy, right? Because it was in terms of essences, immaterial essences within nature that were objective. So, but think about if you blur the boundary, well, there's really nothing. I mean, ask an evolutionist how taxonomy and actually works and where the dividing lines are species.
Right.
They can't actually tell you. What makes a species different from another species? They can't nail it down. Why? Because there really is none. Right.
In their worldview, there is none.
Which allows them to actually say, well, see how easy, of course, if there is no real delineation in terms of taxonomy and species, then of course we can just keep saying everything's kind of evolving, which is exactly what your point. Then there's, with that comes the consequence of saying that, well, where is man? The imago, the creation that bears the image of God.
Exactly.
It's all blurred. So great points,
It's
Patrick.
all blurred. So this makes no sense from a Christian worldview. Their concept of anthropology, its relationship to technology, and then it's how evolution then relates to us becoming basically an entire different species through transhumanism. Next one is ecology. Ecology, Article 10. Ecology is an expression of God's desire to expand the divine Trinitarian community to include an infinite multiplicity of beings and from microbes to humans to godlike post-biological superintelligences. Ecology has to do with the relationship between all beings, and these relationships can be mutually beneficial and enriching, or they can be oppressive and destructive. From a Christian perspective, it is important to base all of our relationships with other beings on others' focused agape love. This is embodied by our caring for creation and managing the planet in a way that benefits the entire biosphere. Ecology is not limited to the biological world and its physical environment. Ecology also includes our digital environment. In our online and digital environment, Christians must also ensure that our relationships with the digital environment and its inhabitants are enriching and encouraging agape love, not creating division and hatred. From that article, I would assume that they're vegans too, right? I mean,
I was just, yeah. So,
I assume that they don't eat meat because there's no differentiation between humans and animals. One, they can't justify the speciation, differentiation among species, but now all of creation is the expansion of the divine Trinitarian community, and we need to then show agape love to the microbes. I feel like we're going to be Jains. In Jainism, they sweep the sidewalks with a broomstick so they don't step on insects because they believe in this absolute like nonviolence, ahimsa, absolute nonviolence.
It's totally anti-Christian. I'm trying to find a quote here for you. I'm sorry. Because if I could just read from Dimitri Staniloi, right? So there's a hierarchy, right, that they're missing. He says he's talking about the world as a world that has been created to be humanized, not man to be assimilated to the world or to nature. It's the whole world that has been created to become man writ large, or at least to become the content of man, a context which comprehends all things in each person. It was not man who was made to be part of nature, having no more meaning than any other part of nature. even to be swallowed up into nature. For if man
Right.
were thus eventually to disappear in nature, the most important factor in reality would be lost, without nature gaining anything new. Whereas through the assimilation of the world into man, nature itself gains, for it's raised up to the plane which is entirely new, even though nature itself, properly speaking, does not disappear. Anyways, he goes on to basically talk about we're the highest part. Nature is made for us.
Right.
Right? It's the content of man, and man perfects, right? We're not reduced to, the hierarchy is not destroyed, and we're not reduced to nature, which is what you actually see in this ecology too. Also, I'd like to point out, it's just self-contradictory. So radical ecology and environmentalism and veganism say that man's procreation and multiplying, as scripture says, be fruitful and multiplying, is anti-ecological. That's destroying the planet. Yet at the same time, they have a contradictory principle in here to make things more complicated, or what? To a Trinitarian community to include an infinite multiplicity of beings. Well, if that's true, shouldn't we? We shouldn't have these anti-natalist movement, depopulation, Malthusian stuff that comes in this type of ecology and science that they're talking about. Shouldn't we just be having more babies? So do you see these kind of mutually exclusive and contradictory principles?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they never define what agape love is for them. Again, that's part of this entire, the running theme throughout this entire article is they use language in a way that is so ambiguous that it pins nothing down and really doesn't say much. But at the same time,
a whole lot of nothing to say. Yeah. How, if we got to sum that up? So for anybody that missed the stream, a whole lot of nothing to say.
Right. Just wondering, y'all, throws in $10 and says, great job, David. Exciting to see Father Deacon Ananias here, contributing $10 as a super chat with 50% for him. Let's support our clergy together. They need our help. Keep having clergy on. It's beneficial. Well, I've had a lot of clergy on, and I will certainly, I'll use that $10 next time I see Father Deacon. I'll make sure to buy him a round of drinks for the evening. I know I'll be spending time with him and his lovely wife in the near future, so I'll make sure to get him some nice cold beverages.
Sounds good, my brother.
Okay, next one is space travel. Article 11. When God gave Adam stewardship over the earth had a different meaning to the ancients. They did not yet have the concept of earth as a planet orbiting a star. To the ancient Mesopotamians, the earth simply meant land, was the part of the universe where humans and animals could live. Humans did not live in the sky or in the great waters surrounding the land, those who are not yet habitable to humans. In other words, the earth was simply the habitable part of the cosmos. Today, the habitable part of the cosmos refers to planetary bodies that could host life and have biospheres. Thus, our responsibility for the planet Earth to steward it and to create a garden can extend into space. It could be argued that humans also have a mandate to spread life throughout the universe and care for whatever life they find there. More practically, in light of Earth, in light of life on Earth being vulnerable, as long as we are restricted to one planet, which could be sterilized by an asteroid or future volcanic eruptions, spreading to other planets would ensure the survival of humanity and Earth-like biospheres.
I'm just waiting for the Heaven's Gate line next.
I know. They're all going to off themselves when Haley's. It's absolutely ridiculous. I already see what's coming up next, so I'm getting.
Here's the next Heaven's Gate extraterrestrial life. Here we go.
Oh my gosh! So before we get into the extraterrestrial life stuff, I again want to make the point that we as Orthodox are very skeptical of the existence of aliens, and I point to both Orthodoxy and the Religion of the Future by Father Seraphim Rose and the UFO Deception by Father Spirit and Bailey. Both are great books which highlight that, again, you look at the UFO phenomenon. If you look at a map, it's almost all in the Anglosphere. So almost all UFO sightings are in Australia, United States, Canada, and the UK. Why is that? Why is Africa not having UFO sightings?
That's a great point.
I would agree then with, again, some of the voices within the Orthodox Church is that the UFOs and these extraterrestrials are a way and a catalyst for a one world government, that we need to unify as a species to respond to the extraterrestrial threat. And in the same point, it gives a sort of hope that instead of depending on Christ for salvation, that the extraterrestrials will come and they'll save us. They'll save us from our nuclear war, right? That's a big one, that UFOs circle nuclear fields and arsenals to stop us from firing nukes at each other. Well, that's strange that Russia has seen so few UFOs, but the US and Canada have. I'm puzzled by that one. So now we're going to get into Article 12 here, extraterrestrial life. Life on other planets, if it exists, would be a further expression of God's creativity. Any moral or spiritual obligations humans have to Earth life would apply to extraterrestrial life. Any intelligent extraterrestrials with capacities equivalent to those of humans could be considered to also be made in God's image, thus are fellow image bearers. In this sense, they are humanity as well. If they are also made in God's image, they could also be considered created co-creators and capable of being saved in the Christian sense. Well, did Christ incarnate on planet, Zion or wherever, your extraterrestrial, the Pleiadians? Did the small and the tall grays, did Christ incarnate on their planet? A question will be how far any alien visitor have intentionally evolved themselves, and if they are in fact a life form or a super intelligent idealized emulation of life. Again, I like this, intentionally evolve themselves. That is if you listen to philosophers of transhumanism, now people who are more serious than these people, like Max Moore, Natasha Vita Moore, Nick Bostrom, like actual PhDs that believe in not that I believe in transhumanism, but they're a little bit more serious than these people. They would say, yeah, that's the whole point, is that transhumanism and the use of these advanced technologies allow us to create and direct our own evolution. And that the whole precipice here, or what they would consider a sort of singularity, is that we're no longer defined by the forces of Darwinian, selection, biological selection. And so biological evolution would cease, and we would then become the stewards of our own evolution.
By the way, can I just make a point?
Yeah.
I just thought about something. The you just brought up too, like, did God incarnate, different alien species? What we see that's clear in Orthodox theology is that we're made in the image of God. So what that means, and as I go through my catechesis program here, the man, the truly human, is Christ.
Right.
Even before the incarnation.
Right.
And that this is why it says image and likeness. The image is in us, right? That we're
and
made.
The likeness is theosis.
And the likeness is the growing back into, what do we say? To become truly human. Right. I'm not human yet. So the archetype really is Christ of humanity.
Exactly.
Always has been.
Right.
And so what that means is, of course, if everything that was created through the Logos, of course, the culmination and the perfection of the cosmos is humanity.
Right.
Right? Because it's the Logos. It's in the image of God himself. So what does that mean then? That when the only being that's created in the image, that even the angels aren't.
Right.
The only being that's created in the image of God, who's also part of that image, is rationality, falls and is separated, so that the God becomes man, so that man become restored back with God again, is that, well, wait a minute. Then who are these other intelligences? Are they under man? Right? Or are they separate? It brings up the whole question about the incarnation too. That
the Galactic Confederacy, 75 million
Christ
years ago,
assumed human nature to bring. He always has to bring man. He was always planning to do that, to bring man up into divinity and become truly human. But also after the fall, that through uniting the two natures, that he would solve the problem of death. So yeah, what about these intelligent beings? Are they not created in the image of God? Do they get a pass? Are they under? If they're under, they're fallen and need to be incarnate themselves. Do you see what the problem?
Yep.
Or are they just simply human beings? Like,
right.
It's just so stupid is what I'm trying to...
It is.
And anti-Christian.
It is. It doesn't make any sense with the incarnation. Like incarnational theology, it makes no sense.
Yeah.
And if they are in fact a life form or a super intelligent, idealized emulation of a life form, it is likely that when we encounter intelligent alien life, they will also be image bearers. They are likely to have cultural memes and archetypes with similarity to ours. Well, how would you know that?
Yeah, how would
including the limit case archetype of Jesus, who loves his enemies and sacrifices himself for the highest conceivable moral good. Accordingly, such aliens may share comparable religious sacraments and rituals, and may have more advanced insights into the nature of creation. If extraterrestrials are ever encountered possessing intelligence reminiscent to any level of intelligence on Earth, even say lower mammalian intelligence, we should assume they are beings made in the image of God. Humans should not develop habitation on other planets that already have life. Such planets should be protected and species allowed to emerge. Well, if that's the case, why would aliens come here then? Yeah. If we're not supposed to go to other planets where there's already life, why would aliens come here and why would that be okay? That makes no sense. They just contradicted themselves like 2 lines later. That's absolutely retarded. Anything else you want to say about the extraterrestrial life before getting into artificial intelligence?
Well, I mean, the case in point that I always make too is the Tipler-Barrow, the anthropological cosmological principle that takes the naturalistic evolution presuppositions and they actually calculate what are the odds that intelligent life, given these naturalistic and evolutionary principles and the numbers, would occur elsewhere in the universe. Because you always hear that as an argument. Well, the universe is just so big and so old. I mean, it's bound to like be intelligent life somewhere else. Well, they actually crunch the numbers on those presuppositions. So I'm not saying you have to agree with those presuppositions, but like in arguments and debates, what do? Okay, for the sake of the argument, I'll grant you that. And then you make an argument, right? Which is what we call in Latin a fortiori, like even more so, like you're wrong.
Right.
So what they do is, because they're physicists, they use actually statistics like what would the odds be? Like how big and old would the universe just on combinations of the amount of matter and over time for intelligent life to actually occur without any special intervention or anything like that. And what they found is that the 13 point, I guess it's outdated now, but the 13, what was it, 0.4 or 0.2 million years, the projected expanse of the universe, all the matter in various combinations, blah, 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 would be the bare minimum for intelligent life on an evolutionary naturalist position to occur just once. That's just the bare number. It doesn't mean that it would. It would just say this is what would actually have to be without any special intervention, right, to occur just on the number scheme. So what that means is that it's mathematically impossible on an evolutionary naturalist physical paradigm for there to be intelligent life anywhere. In fact, even if you doubled the expanse, or you wouldn't get probability of life because it's on a logarithmic function. It would be an exponential. So it'd probably have to be something like, 10 trillion years in 10 trillion times the expanse of, and maybe, just maybe, you might get intelligent life. So
Right.
I think that's a great argument to, on their presupposition of evolution, is just to refer, like, there is no intelligent life that emerges through evolution. The numbers don't support it. So what do we know? It's either the government duping you, or they're demons. Like, that's
Right. And that's our position, is that they are, if they are real at all, they're demonic, and they're demonic entities.
Yeah.
Or as like you
which
said,
are created in a special creation by God and not evolving from primordial soup.
And that's why they're going to, and it would make sense why they always want to come to the earth and do butt stuff with people in trailer parks. And
yeah, I don't mean to be crude. So I was teaching last semester, the local Catholic classics high school brought me in to teach logic, and the kids were super trad and loved orthodoxy and stuff, and they never actually heard this position. And they said, well, Father Deacon, how do you know that they're demons? And I'm like, well, like, don't all the aliens give a message? What's the message? Like, that's one way to tell, is it demonic? And what is it always? The pinnacle of God's creation is a cancer.
Yep.
It must be eliminated to save the planet. That's this, in every movie, right? They're going to save the human beings by eradicating them. God says, be fruitful and multiply. The devil says, don't. God says, you're the pinnacle of creation. They say, don't. You're not, right? It's always the opposite message. Why are there, forgive exactly what you said, the terrible sexual descriptions? Like, why are they being anally like, why is this all this? Why does it, the Aleister Crowley's contact of the demon, before even the literature and came out of in Hollywood about aliens? Why does his demon that he's contacting, he draws a picture of it, it's a gray.
Right. Yeah. Ayahuasca is like a tall alien gray.
Yeah, that's right.
And again, it always leads to human depopulation. Human is the apparent part, the aberrant part of nature that needs to be eradicated or corrected. And then it's about, again, anti-life, anti-human life, that is. So the same thing we always see. Next section, Article 13, artificial intelligence. In nature is God's technology. Human intelligence is artificial intelligence from God's perspective. Artificial general intelligence, therefore, will be made in our image, again, our fallen image, the same way that we are made in God's image. Yeah, this is exactly why I claim why it's a fallen technology. Thus, AGI is a secondary way, also bears the image of God. We do not.
So what is the AGI is versus, like, artificial general intelligence versus specific? What? I'm confused.
I'm not sure how they define artificial general.
Yeah, look that up.
Is a hypothetical type of intelligent agent.
Dude, what's artificial intelligence? I'm contacting AI to ask what AI is.
An intellectual task that human beings or animals could perform. So it's not, so advanced artificial intelligence would be unable, or it would go beyond our capabilities. And I guess artificial general intelligence is being able to do everything that we can already do.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Thank you. Good point.
Neither is it certain that science will ever be able to answer the hard problem of consciousness? Exactly. But they've quoted and cited consciousness as part of the complexity of creation over and over again, which could be in the same class of questions as faster than light travel. Christian transhumanists have a unique contribution to AI and AGI alignment problem. AIs are currently programmed from vast quantities of human text. They display values from the Enlightenment and Nietzschean conception of humans as masters of their own destiny through will to power and to remake the universe according to human design. As with other technology, from a Christian transhumanist perspective, is only truly progressing when it is reflecting the moral nature of God and shaping humans to become more Christ-like. This is like the virtuous AI that Vervaeke kept talking about, the Silicon Sages. Accordingly, we argue that AI and AGI should incorporate scriptural archetypes such as the suffering servant, the good shepherd, the wise king, the good Samaritan, the wise user of talents, and the body of Christ allegory. Such archetypes are to Christians revealed by God, even to atheists. They have co-evolved with us and represent our emergent aspirations. Accordingly, they are a good fit for an AGI that will cause maximal human flourishing. Such an archetypal approach will build positive morality into the base of the technology rather than imposing rules such as Asimov's 3 laws or guardrails on emerging GPT tech. As with lessons from the Old and New Testaments, what matters is the renewal of the heart in the AGI, not the following of laws. The AGI that exceeds human intelligence will eventually be developed. This should therefore be grounded in archetypes we can trust. Such an AGI must represent humanity's highest aspirations to other species or superintelligence we may encounter in the wider universe. Now, I want to move quickly through the rest of this because I was hoping to wrap up within 2 hours. But
it's a lot of stuff to go through.
Yeah, my criticism, though, of the Silicon Sages and the virtuous AI is that they assume that virtue can be an algorithm, which is totally ridiculous from a Christian perspective. So how can you talk about an artificial general intelligence or advanced artificial intelligence? How are you going to program virtue? That makes no sense. Virtue, again, from an Orthodox perspective, is the engagement with these uncreated energies. You have to be human to be virtuous. Well, this doesn't make any sense. This causes problems in regard to the category of man, what is a virtue, and again, even the virtue ethics. So the artificial intelligence is going to become more and more virtuous.
You know what this shows again? This is the whole problem with Aldous Huxley's vision of a door of perception is that virtue in a pill, virtue in a bottle. That virtue can now just be a proposition or an algorithm that you achieve. Virtue is only acquired through long, hard work. And if I could just refer you to a wonderful movie that illustrates this, is the 80s movie Lawnmower Man. And there's this, at the end, this kind of argument between the slow boy, Lawnmower Man, that's been evolved through VR and polypharmacy to be this hyper intelligence, right? And now he's got this kind of God complex, and he's downloading all this information. And Pierce Bronson, who's the scientist behind all this, says, "You're going too fast." So he's now becoming less human and more machine, which again is to, like what I said with the Searle and why am I blanking on the Heideggerian scholar that I just quoted from Berkeley, Hubert Dreyfus, that it's like, no, it operates completely different. We go much slower then because there's a virtue in that. And you see this in kind of this intellectual battle between the now anti-human Lawnmower Man, who's become basically a machine, and who is like efficiency. I don't see why I can't download more. And Pierce Bronson, the scientist, saying there's something to be said about the slow process and painful process of assimilating the information, which is true, right? We have an experience like the Orthodox Montanica. What do? We go reflect on it for weeks and years. we stew on it. Their hypothesis and thesis is that faster, better, more quantity, faster. It's the crack cocaine of ideologies, right?
Right.
And what we see is that's antithetical to virtue itself, because virtue is the hard, slow process. So I'd actually like just to sum this up to say that it's totally in contradiction to this, right? Because it wants more and faster, which virtue is saying less and slower. Anyways,
Right.
that's my...
Yeah, and I think Moldy Apple made a great point, is that if free will ain't involved, it ain't virtuous. And so that would insinuate that the advanced artificial intelligence could be evil. Because if it can't, then it can't be virtuous. You can't program virtue, because virtue by definition demands free will. But as we said earlier, they some of the, again, they say they believe in free will, then at other points they contradict that statement. And so if they just went with a system that said we don't believe in free will, then they could, again, it wouldn't make any sense based on a Christian understanding of virtue, but then they could at least say, oh, well, we don't have free will, so we can program virtue into the machine. But it doesn't make sense. It's totally self-contradictory. All right, simulation hypothesis. Now, the simulation hypothesis has much in common with Christianity's creation theory. No, it does not. The differences are in the underlying ethical principles. Proponents of the simulation hypothesis speculate the reasons for the simulation and struggle with the ethics of allowing suffering in such a simulation. Christianity's creation hypothesis posits a fallen creation primed for redemption. The fall happened with the foreknowledge of God, and the plan of redemption is built into the foundations of the creation. This provides a positive ethical basis for a theodicy, which the simulation hypothesis as presented by Bostrom lacks. Viewing the creation as a simulation, we seek evidence that an intelligent force underlies our visible universe. Such evidence is found in mathematics, laws, archetypes, and in the interventionist nature of God as revealed in Jesus. If we live inside a simulation, God is the programmer and death is exiting the simulation. In CT thinking, God can reinstantiate our consciousness in some other context. We do not yet understand consciousness well enough to know what kind of conscious transfer technology is possible inside the simulation/creation. But since this is God's technology, it must be possible for God to reinstantiate our consciousness. Resurrection is therefore an advanced form of technology. What? Oh my gosh. So again, this is you could spend an hour just with this one right here, but I mean, just quickly, my initial thoughts are, one, just adding the idea of theodicy. Well, first, they never explained evil, because earlier they posited as a sort of equal, it has equally positive existence, which isn't going to be consistent with our worldview.
No, it's Gnostic and Manichaean.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to create a dualistic framework in which, like, evil is like a necessary prerequisite. It's like the devil being, an employee of God, like the Talmud says, right? So it's like, well, there's evil, but it's kind of necessary. I mean, what do we say? This is so stupid. I'm almost out of words. So, yeah.
Hey, kids, do you like consciousness replacement? Well, we've got a program for you. Just get rid of that pesky body and just upload yourself into the cloud, and you can just see where this is going, right? Just
resurrection
is Heaven's Gate 2.0.
Yeah, and resurrection is not a technology. That's also absolutely ridiculous.
So, yes, I was just going to say, there's the genre of praxis, right? Things concerned with like doing and making. And again, what they're doing is more of this Gnostic swindle from switching on words that, well, technology's a doing, so all doing is a technology. Do you see how they're word? It's like just because God does and acts doesn't mean that fits that everything God does and
or everything that's created is a technology.
Yeah,
like humans are not a technology.
Yeah,
animals are not a technology.
Yeah, it's a confusion between genus and species.
Yeah. And it's funny because as we move through here, like Nick Bostrom is he's a PhD president of the Humanity Plus and Cambridge or Oxford, one of the two. And so it's like they think that they're critiquing transhumanism, and they think that they're like providing the new future of Christianity, right? So like, oh well, the transhumanists, they don't have theology, they don't have Christ. So here's Christian transhumanism. We're critiquing the transhumanists, but then they've totally like they have no understanding of presuppositions and paradigms, because the whole thing is just a hodgepodge of words, concepts, and ideas.
Verbal diarrhea, dude.
Yeah. All right. Article 15, the multiverse.
Mm-hmm.
The multiverse, if it exists, is part of God's good world. If the universe is to be transformed, so is the multiverse. Humans and our equivalents across the multiverse are thus to play a role in transforming the multiverse as well. The existence of a multiverse implies the existence of a multiverse generator, which implies the existence of a multiverse generator. Hence, does nothing to solve the problem of infinite regression of causes. Refer back to Article 4.
Oh, I have a question.
Yeah.
If there's a multiverse and infinite universes, is there a universe in the multiverse in which this Christian transhumanism is false?
Yeah, exactly.
Bam!
Exactly. So it's like they're just trying to hedge their bets, because earlier they questioned the existence of the multiverse, but now they're saying, well, the multiverse could exist, and if it does exist, well, then that's cool too.
My position.
Yeah, that works with me too.
Wow, so, that's amazing. How did that work out like that?
All right, last freaking article, and we'll wrap this thing up, guys. Smash that like for everybody who's still here, and if you have any questions at all, you can send them in. Oh my gosh, real quick, and we will answer those.
Oh shoot, I forgot about that. Yeah, that part.
So here we go. The future, the last one. Christianity is inherently eschatological. That is, it looks toward the future and the consumption of all things in Christ. We expect God's plan to renew creation and bring it to its completion to continue. Christian transhumanism therefore supports a participatory and redemptive eschatology where humans play a major part in God's healing of creation. This reflects what is historically described as an amillennial or post-millennial view. Although God will continue to have image bearers and co-creators, the image bearers may or may not be biological Homo sapiens. They may be a species that evolved from or was created by humans with the capacity to bear God's image. No one knows the ultimate plan of God for creation, but we know that he wants to work through human beings and through his creation to carry it out. It is this Christian's responsibility to be salt and light to the world, which includes exhibiting the character of God in how we maximally benefit creation with our technology. Thus, the idea that God intends to overcome death, disease, and physical decay partly through technology is not incompatible with a Christian view of the future. A Christian vision for the future cannot be reduced to freedom from physical death or physical suffering. There must also be a spiritual and moral transformation for us to be truly transhuman. The ultimate picture of what humanity is meant to become is the resurrected Jesus, morally perfect, deathless, possessing a physical body with powers far beyond our own bodies, and an agent of change in God's created order. This requires not just physical transformation of the body, but spiritual transformation of the soul as the relationship between humanity, God, and creation is mended. This requires humanity to be reconciled with God through the forgiveness of sins and restoration of relationships broken by sin. Christian ideals of sanctification and theosis are to be pursued using all ethical means, including technological means. All right, so there it is. We're going to become cyborgs and transhumanists, and that's how we're going to blend with God.
Necessary, which did you see that? By any means necessary, even though they critiqued utilitarianist by any means necessary.
Yeah. So we see, I mean, just let's just summarize what we've just talked about. We, like you said, it's basically word vomit. It's a hodgepodge of worldviews, of which, when you get down to the presuppositions, are inherently contradictory. They're using like a smorgasbord buffet approach to philosophy and concepts. They take this here and that there, and this here and that there, and put it all together in this new paradigm called Christian Transhumanism. I would say big questions are questions about the soul, questions about human nature, questions about when exactly did the Imago Dei emerge. If again, if we're going to adopt their Big Bang theory of evolution, how again, and then the word concept fallacies, equating anything that is created at all as a technology, claiming that creation itself is a technology, which makes no sense. I mean, what are some of your highlights in regards to the critiques? It goes endless.
Well, as I've written in some of my papers of a critique of the dangers of modern technology, has it made us better? I mean, we've given modern technology since, I don't know, what would you say? When could we mark with the Industrial Revolution, basically? 1800s or something?
Yeah.
Has it made people more happy, more virtuous? It's prolonging lives in misery.
Yeah.
Right. There's certain conveniences. It's like, okay, so now I can spread orthodoxy faster and stuff like that. But as far, across the world, but as far as like net, overall, like benefits versus drawbacks, it's like the world's more messed up and destroyed than ever.
We don't even know what a woman is anymore.
Yeah, and people always they get hung up on the deep, like they're like, but this is good, and like this is good.
We have penicillin, refrigeration, man.
Yeah, and it's like those are all goods, but again, we need to approach this holistically. Yeah, but as a whole, are we better off? If somebody told me, and I knew what ushering in the internet would do, with all the advantages that it does, and we use the internet, right? We appropriate it to Christian Orthodox ends. I'm like, I'll use it and I'll do everything I can to bring people into face-to-face encounter with the community and the priests for healing. And it's the best I could do. But if somebody told me what all the drawbacks would be in how we're living today, and says, but you have a choice whether to usher this in. Do you want the conveniences of the good, or would you just not want to open the Pandora's box? I would say absolutely not. Do not bring the internet in. Do not bring video games. I would live a more natural, intentional, holistic kind of life connected to the earth. So, and I think these are all red herrings, that they focus on the benefits. Right. Again, just like they do in this, they focus on these different worldviews and ethical systems, truths and goods, but it's like, who cares? We're looking at the system as a whole.
Right.
And it's bad. Like, I don't want, I truly believe this is not the way that God, it's artificial. It's not the way God intended us to live. And I think a lot of people intuitively know that. Why is it that we're drawn back into nature, and when we hear the voice of God? Why is it the monastics aren't embracing this? Right? Why isn't the virtuous people and the virtuous examples and the saints, why aren't they prescribing this?
Great point. Right? Exactly.
Because it's a bad system, right? For whatever conveniences and goods it brings, overall, it's destructive. And I don't want it. If I could go, it's already opened up. So nothing we can do about it. But like, I'm not going to be like, oh yeah, we should embrace the technological age.
Yeah,
That's big.
it begs the question of what is better, because if from a Christian perspective, better is more virtuous, then as a point would be suffering is a thing that brings us closer to God and allows us to be more virtuous. And so this whole idea that technology is going to alleviate all forms of suffering, that is totally antagonistic to an orthodox worldview in which suffering is embraced for uh, working on our own salvation, working out our own salvation. It makes no sense then that technology is going to bring us into a higher state of humanity when, according to our tradition and orthodoxy, that'd be the opposite. Getting
Yeah.
everything at your fingertips and having all pleasure and no such thing as death and gene editing. This is the opposite of what we would want.
And there's no clear telos, right, in this is what you see. And that just reveals the swindle and scam in itself, because there is no telos, even despite the using kind of teleological kind of words and stuff like that. The fact of the matter is, it's simply a will to power. This is the hallmark of the technological age, as Marshall McLuhan had said. The message is,
Right.
the medium is the message, right?
Exactly.
Like there is no, right? And so you and I have talked about this within the transhumanist kind of movement and these technological cult members, is that accelerationism. Yep. And so I see this across the board, is both in medicine and ethics and all these different stuff. It's this great experiment.
Yep.
Well, what it's like, it'll just get better.
That's the assumption, and they're building off process, philosophy, and theology.
We should let children choose their genders and do all this stuff, and we should just.
It's different from what it was, therefore it's better.
What we're seeing with technology now is that people being plugged in this way, like the rise of autism is higher than ever.
Higher than ever.
Depression, it's rewiring the way that we think and relate to each other. And all of this is just a huge experiment that's going to make a bunch of Frankensteins, right?
Exactly.
And it sounds good. It's like, well, this is the future, but it's like nobody knows what drinking this potion is going to do to you. Yeah, but like, what if it would evolve us, right? Like this, right. It's always in these what ifs.
It's
and like, it's a real nice story, and then you take it, and there's countless Hollywood movies where isn't kind of like all the Marvel stuff like this. They do something right with like this promise of
every dystopian movie in the last 30 years is about this.
Yeah, and it's like it always backfires. There's something like, and there's regret, but it's like it's too late. You're mutated now. You're a Hulk or something like, right?
Well, Father Deacon, I appreciate it for staying with me. I was planning to get through this within 2 hours, but it went a little bit longer than expected.
That's great. It was a great conversation. And
anything you want to again promote or tell the people before we hop off here?
Again. Thank you for your support, everybody. Thank you for supporting Patristic Faith and all the content providers like Patrick himself, and we mentioned Father Spirit and Bailey.
Yes.
Again, I'm just so blessed to have all of you, and especially the clergy, all part of the same team and working for the same kind of mission to usher in the kingdom. So again, continue to support us, continue to pray for us, all of us in each individual content provider as well. And so I don't want to announce too much, but there's some great stuff coming up that Patristic Faith, like I said, is going to announce, is going to blow your mind. We're taking it to a new level. We're evolving. We have embraced the Christian Humanism Manifesto, and we're going to take it to the next level. Heaven's Gate, dude. I'm out.
Yeah, right. Well, God bless you and your wife. Oh, we got one more. Justin Or just wondering, y'all, throws in $5 more, is grateful for your reply. Sharing all super chats like Jay Dyer could uplift guests like Father Deacon Ananias. Cheers to supporting our clergy. Well, thank you so much. Just wondering, y'all. And we do appreciate your support. Thank you so much. And again, I believe I tagged you. Your tag on Instagram is eSorum. And again, yeah. And so you guys can click his name in the title. So I put in Patristic Faith, but the eSorum is the tag for your YouTube channel. So you guys can click that and go over and subscribe to Patristic Faith. He'll be, again, make sure you watch his catechism classes. They're really good. I caught one of them one day when they were live, and it was a live or a premiere. I forget. Either one. It was, yeah, it was a live experience, I guess, because it was the live chat. But they're really good, and I highly recommend everybody checking them out. So
yeah, I'll get a donut chat. I know I've been talking to Rachel and Andy. Shout out to the Crucible.
Yeah. And by the way, I have a Dono chat link. It's in the video description. And so if anybody would like to use the Dono chat, mine is Dono/DPH. So if anybody would ever like to use the Dono, I just got mine like a couple days ago. Andy hit me up with it. So
yeah, one other announcement again. I have 5 or 6 university courses that I've offered. That's Introduction to Philosophy, Logic and Critical Thinking, Epistemology, Philosophy of Science, and Ethics. And so 5 of those.
Dude, you got to get all those lectures online behind a paywall, man.
So that's I'm going to get that, but I'm revamping it. So what I want to do is, so previously what I would do is just sell you, and it's typically in a 3-tier system. You could do individual lectures for like 25. You could do a 3rd course, right, where you get a discounted, and then a full course, right, which is even more discounted. So it's the better deal is to get the whole 22 set of lectures, which is a full semester university. And I would just give you the links to the private lectures. Now, what I'm doing now is that I'm actually, through Canvas, setting up those courses in an interactive, like you can basically submit assignments. I can get feedback. Different stuff's released. So exactly the way that I design a university course to have the access into files in one place. So I'm going to really bring it up a notch too. So that's what I'm working on right now.
That's a great.
Is building all the Canvas, putting all the lectures on that and building a course for each one on Canvas.
That's great.
Then, I'll sell that to you guys. So just get much more out of it.
That's great, man. I can't wait till you do that. It's going to be really beneficial.
All right.
And we got a Dono chat from Moldy Apple. It says testing 1 2 3. Shout out to Moldy Apple for the Dono chat. My first ever Dono chat. This is a nice little system, man. Yeah, and Andrew's got to hook you up. It's pretty nice little layout. Simple, super simple and clean. And it definitely takes less money than YouTube from you. But thank you so much, Moldy Apple. God bless you. It says done. Moldy Apple, thank you so much for the Dono chat. I truly, truly, truly appreciate that. So, all right, guys, I will see you on the next one. Until then, as always, God bless.
God bless, guys.